West Florida. Welcome to Lee Pitts Live on Fox 4. We're so thrilled to be Politics Central for the 2020 elections that are coming up. And it has been a plum-pleasing pleasure and a privilege to talk to all of these candidates who are putting their hat in the arena. This is real television. There's no Zoom. There's none of that going on. This is Lee Pitts Live on Fox 4. This is real, and it's politics. We're so thrilled to get here a gentleman who's running for Ward 6. Some of you are familiar with him, but you're going to be more familiar with him today. Jacques Thomas, candidate for Ward 6 for the city of Fort Myers. He's a Democrat, and he's darn proud of it. So without further ado, Jacques, welcome to Lee Pitts Live, man.
Thank you for having me. This has been such an opportunity. I remember telling my mom growing up, watching you as a kid every Sunday morning, the smell of pine sol, mom cleaning, and there's your show, and then we have to go to church in the morning. It's been a real, very, very privilege to be here. I want to talk to people and let them know more about me. As a young 26-year-old candidate, I'm just impelled to run for the people. Too many times we have people the American people are tired of the typical standard politician. The rich politician who does nothing but give empty promises and no results. We need someone now who's young, who's able-bodied, who's going to step in and fight and defend for the people, who have a connection with the mass. There's two different types of people. There's the boss and there's a leader. A leader has been there who's in the trenches with the people. They're going to devise a plan together, a strategy. That's what we need now, instead of a boss who lets people do the work and they just put a stamp on the work that's completed. I am that leader. I want to be in the trenches. I want to represent the many masses here in Fort Myers because I have that connectivity. I experience what people are experiencing.
I feel you, young man. Now, I can't let you give a speech. You got to have a conversation. Yes. All right, I know you got your stuff there. Okay, first of all, what made you decide that you want to run for the city of Fort Myers, Ward 6, as a city councilman?
Yes, sir. As a 26-year-old candidate living in Ward 6, we have many issues: infrastructure, redevelopment. But the main issue that we're having within our ward is rent. Rent is a big thing within our complexes. Many of the people who live in HUD or low-income housing, there's supposed to be a stagnant rent control in the area where our rent is supposed to stay at a normal amount. Our wages are stagnant, but our rent is constantly going up every year. And that's an issue, not just only in our ward, but throughout the city of Fort Myers. If we're going to raise rent every year, we have to do something with our wages. Mm-hmm. We have to bring competitive wages. This way, the working class can have a sustainable sense of living within Southwest Florida.
Where's Ward 6?
Ward 6 is right. It starts right there on Penzance Boulevard and runs all the way back to the 6 Mile Slough. You have the Forum, Colonial Boulevard, the Tree Line Corridor.
A lot of gated communities.
Yes, a lot of gated communities.
Mm. What has been the response from those people living in those gated communities when you're knocking on their door or contacting them? I know you can't do much person to person because of the pandemic, and of course we're about 10 feet apart. For all the people who want to have some criticism, they will try to get in touch with me and say I'm not practicing social distancing. People spend their time on a lot of stuff that's just certainly not important. But in the grand scheme of things, what has been some of the response you're getting from people?
With the pandemic, it's very hard to go door to door. And especially, too, with the social issues that are going on now, as an African American going into these gated communities, it's sometimes tough being looked because you don't want, a certain individual to look at you and say that, you're a threat or you don't feel belonged in those gated communities. Mm-hmm. So the best thing that I've been doing is social media. And many of the complexes, on the weekends when all the leasing offices are closed, I attack them. I hit 1,200 doors by myself with all these complexes, just going door to door. Sometimes I'll knock, but I'll slip my information through the doors and talk to some of the neighbors. And many of the problems that we're dealing with in the complexes, I run across eviction notes on some of the doors in our complexes. Many individuals not knowing what tomorrow will bring. And when I sit with them, you can see the struggle, you can see the pain. They don't know. We have a leadership now that's reluctant or that's slow in transparency. When situations like this happen, we as the working class don't have time to wait because every dollar we make has to go for rent or other bills. We need a solution.
Now, I've been interviewing on this particular show at least almost 30 years, politicians here and there, everywhere. I mean, I've seen it all. And to my knowledge, I can't recall an African-American black person running for Ward 6. You may be the first one.
Yes, sir.
And have you heard that already as well?
Yes, sir. I've heard.
What kind of challenge does that place for you, or lack thereof?
It makes me more hungry and motivated. You would think over the last couple of years we would have gotten over those barriers, but I think it takes special events like this, what's going on with COVID-19 following the George Floyd event. America needs a new societal awakening. We need a new change in our society, and that's unfortunate. It takes things like this to make us wake up. What have we been doing in the last couple of years? We need some fresh perspective.
You've been very outspoken and very clear that you support Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
You're a part of that movement.
Yes.
A peaceful protests of Lee County?
Of Lee County.
Right.
Yes, sir.
How do you think people in Ward 6 see you supporting that?
They may say, I don't look at it as, I'm not someone who believes in looting and rioting, but you got to understand too, our country has been in this same situation. If we look back in December 1773 with the Boston Tea riots, those same merchants were dumping millions of pounds of tea in the Boston River. This is the same thing that we're seeing today. People are demonstrating. And the late John Lewis always said that we have to get into necessary trouble. And the people are getting into necessary trouble, and we are going to seek necessary results.
What are you hearing out there from people who see a young candidate like you, who is enthusiastic, who really wants to see change, a new generation, a new movement? What are some of the comments people are saying to you?
The experience. People are saying he's too young, the experience. Well, we've had experience at the table of leadership for many years, and it has done little to nothing. We need someone now who, the biggest thing now in this election year is collaboration and transparency. Mm-hmm. We may not have the experience. You don't need the experience to go out and step out and talk to other people. Collaboration is our biggest friend if we want an effective government.
Who is Jacques Thomas as a person?
Well, like I said, 26 years old, graduate from Liberty University with a degree in government, politics, and policy. Love powerlifting. I'm lifting, big bench presser. Just a typical guy. I go out, go train. That's all my life.
Born and raised in Fort Myers?
I was born in Miami, moved to Naples 6 months after I was born, then moved to Fort Myers in 2006 after I graduated Laley Elementary.
So that would put you here about 14 years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a lot of things happening with the city of Fort Myers. Dynamic growth.
Yes.
Exciting times.
Yes.
At one time, one of the best economies in Florida.
Yes.
Fort Myers.
Yes.
A lot of things have changed as a result of the pandemic.
Yes.
I have a two-pronged question for you. What's your thoughts about the growth in Fort Myers? And what's your thoughts about the way the pandemic has been handled by city government?
Well, primarily with the development, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. We want growth. We have 20,000 or more people who are supposed to be moving here. Growth is tremendous. It's wonderful. But we can't compromise the locals who live here. If you look at some of the areas, especially the Dunbar community, in the last couple of years, it's getting smaller and smaller. I'm speaking to one of the individuals. She lives in Moore Shores, and she lived in the Dunbar community where she was paying $900 or so in rent. But with so much development, property values are getting higher in the Dunbar communities, and it's becoming unaffordable for many of the locals. And now she moved to Moore Shores. Pretty soon, that area is going to be unaffordable, and she's going to have to be pushed out. So with Miami and Naples, it's too late for them. But I think for Fort Myers, we have time left, but we have to capitalize it. What it's going to take is ushering a new sense of new leadership, people who see that, and we're going to take action. But if we don't, it's going to become a worse cause phenomenon, and nothing's going to be done.
You said take action.
Take action.
As a result of growth, and property values increasing, and lack of affordable housing. What is that action?
That action, primarily what I would like to do on some of the complexes in Ward 6 is put a rent control. We can start small. We have to recognize with the working class, there has to be something. If we can't have our businesses give us raises, especially in times like this, we have to make a compromise, a deal somewhere. We have to give some sort of wage that equates with the living within Southwest Florida. Or other way, what we can do vice versa is have our apartments look at putting a rent control where our rent meets with our wages, so that individuals can have that sense of paying their bills. They can have that sense of sustainability. But if we do not do that, if we continue having our rent rise and our wages stay stagnant, we're going to have an even higher rise in homeless with this chronic homelessness that's going on within the city. It is all contributed by this affordable housing issue, and we have to take care of it firsthand if we want to take care of this chronic homelessness.
Mm-hmm. Are you anti-growth?
I'm not anti-growth at all, but also I'm anti-gentrification.
Mm-hmm.
I do not. If we're going to revitalize the Dunbar community, I don't want to gentrify. You got to look at some of these small mom and pop stores, these barbecue stores, barbecue shops, the barber shops, the Haitian stores, the mom and pop stores. They're what makes a community so unique.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot become a generic society by bringing in the Wendy's, the McDonald's, the big corporations. We have to have some sort of uniqueness within our community. We can't compromise that. This is what makes Fort Myers. When you go to Fort Myers and you look at some of the small mom and pop stores that are out in the community, individuals who come from Port Charlotte may not have that barbecue restaurant, but we have it. But what happened when it's gone?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have no uniqueness.
Back to the pandemic. We've got to talk about that. Recently, the city of Fort Myers voted in favor of not mandatory mask law. The Republicans, even though, well, I know it's nonpartisan, but the Republicans voted in favor of not having a law to police mandatory masks. The Democrats, who were black, voted in favor of it. The Republicans, who are all white, voted to not have mandatory requirements there. What's your thoughts about the way that went and where we go from here?
Well, that really exposes the discrepancies and inefficiencies within our leadership. That's the problem that we have. We got to do what's common sense. We got to have common sense in our leadership. I'm support for the mask mandate, but my main concern is if you look at some of the reprisals towards law enforcement throughout the city, you look at in West Palm Beach a couple of weeks ago, an individual pulled out a gun on another individual because the lady kindly asked the individual to wear a mask. Or here, neighboring Costco, at our local Costco stores, you had an individual who had a gun who came up in an aggressive manner because a lady kindly asked him to wear a mask. These are some of these situations I don't want. What I want is we mandate the mask, and I want our police officers to provide masks to the patrons. Police officers who patrol some of our government facilities. You see an individual coming in, we hand them a mask. Businesses, hand them a mask. For me as a full-time security guard, what I do is I patrol some of the government facilities. And we're told to give masks. When a patron is coming, we give them a mask. Some of them, by my command presence, I'll put the mask on and they'll turn around and go get their mask. But I think these are some of the alternatives we can look at. Because right now the tension between law enforcement and the community is strained. There's a high strained tension. And I don't want to worsen the situation by having officers arrest any individuals or citizens because of a mask. We don't want that, especially with what happened at Cape Coral City Hall.
What's your thoughts about the mayor of Fort Myers, not the mayor of Fort Myers, excuse me, the chief of the police department, Derek Diggs, African-American, recently got a new contract. What's your thoughts about the job that he's doing as the top cop?
Transparency. Transparency has to be big. Like Ms. McMiller said, we cannot be reactive. We have to be proactive. Whenever you have a situation like this that happens, be out more vocal in the community. Do not be comfortable. Because with my time in probation, working at the training at the Pat Thomas Law Enforcement Academy in Tallahassee, complacency is our biggest enemy. We were always taught that. And within the line of duty, that's important. We have to understand what happened in Minnesota is not just a Minnesota problem. It's also a national law enforcement agency problem. It's been felt in the streets of Minnesota, and it's been demonstrated here in the streets of Centennial Park. So we have to have a sort of accountability. If we don't have accountability within our law enforcement, society will hold us accountable. And now society has a final verdict, and they've been very loud.
I asked you, what's your thoughts on the chief? You said transparency.
Transparency.
That's vague. What is your thoughts about the job that he is doing?
My thoughts on the job, he's doing good. He's doing good, but he needs, whenever an event happens like this, just be out. Be more involved in the community. Don't sit back. He's doing a tremendous job. But whenever we have community members shedding their concern, be there. Because our taxpayer dollars are there are paying you because we depend on you to serve us.
Mm-hmm.
Be there. Be that focal point for us. Represent us. Whenever there's a demonstration going on, be on the front lines,
Mm-hmm.
calming people down, telling them that you're on their side. And that's what we need.
As a city councilman, you will only have one vote. So you're going to have to influence other people to see things the way that you see them, to try to get some change done in terms of what your policies and what your ideology is and how you like to see the city go. Even though you are representing Ward 6, you'll still be deliberating on the entire city. Question: how are you going? What in your background? What about you? How are you going to influence people to see things your way and be able to get some things through the council that you think are best for the city?
Speaking with people, speaking with neighbors, many people around the community, getting their input, and also formulating mine. One of the biggest things I believe in is teamwork. We're all going to sit down together and formulate the best policies that will be content with everybody and also with the city, that's in the city's best interest, without compromising anyone.
One of the things you mentioned, even though your ward is not Dunbar, you mentioned Dunbar several times in the conversation. Do you have some type of passion about Dunbar, that you want to see something better for Dunbar? And if so, why?
Yes, I do. I have a passion for the city of Fort Myers in general, but I feel, like I always said before, a link with the masses. I want everybody in Southwest Florida to have a great, sustainable sense of living. If we're going to develop, that's great, but we cannot compromise our locals. Our locals are born and raised here. They deserve to live here. They cannot be taken out. The elites don't only belong here. We all belong here. I believe in community.
Now, you have to get be one of the top 2 finishers in Ward 6 to move on to the general election. If no one wins 50% of the vote plus 1, how do you feel about your chances of moving on to the general election?
I feel good. I feel I will be there because I have what it takes. I'm there for the people. I'm an honest person. I'm not a typical career politician. I have no links, no attachment to political interest groups, no political skeletons. I'm coming in with a clear head. The only attachment I have is the interest of the people.
I've been around for a long time. I think this is the first time I've seen so many people running for office in the city government, as far as the wards and the mayor's office. You got 3 candidates who are running for mayor. I'm sure you're familiar with all 3. Do you see any one of those candidates being somebody that you feel you can work well with?
Yes, Jacqueline Miller.
Why is that?
We have like-minded leadership. We have like-minded understanding. It's one of the things I always believe in. Many people are focused on the federal elections, but you have to understand local elections matter. Because if we elect like-minded individuals from the local level, we can have overall change.
Mm-hmm.
And she's one of the biggest advocates for change. When you have an individual like that who sits with you one-on-one and mentors you and coaches you, during our reign of leadership, it's going to be better for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And we need that.
Who's contributing to your campaign? Who are your donors? Go.
Just like people like you and me. I get $50 here, $20 here, GoFundMe, PayPal. I'm not funded by any political interest groups. It's just me going door to door, talking to constituents, talking to individuals, and just getting $20 here and there, collecting. And I'm also working 50+ hours myself, putting what I can to save up. And
I think that's a good thing?
Yes, it's a great thing.
To run a campaign that way?
Yes.
Why?
Because coming in now, I have no favors. I don't owe anybody favors. I only owe favors to the people, and that's how it should have been from the very beginning.
How can people reach you, get involved with your campaign, donate to you?
You can reach me on Facebook at Jacques Thomas 4 Ward 6, and also my website www.jthomas4ward6.com, and my number is 239-265-8502.
As we tape this interview, early voting has already started. When people see those ballots and they see Jacques Thomas on that ballot, Ward 6, and they check Jacques Thomas, what are they going to get for that check? What type of person? What are they getting?
Leadership, transparency, someone who's always there on the front lines, someone who has a big heart, who wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell a lot of people, I may not have the big pockets, but I have the big heart to serve the community. And that's one thing that makes me different from all the other candidates.
Mm-hmm. The final question. What would you like to see the city of Fort Myers 5 years from now? How would it look to you?
5 years from now, I want it to be an area that's grown. It's going to grow, very beautiful, but I want all of our citizens to be able to afford where they live, especially our millennials moving here. This is going to be exciting. I want every individual to live in an area, live in a neighborhood where they don't have to worry about paying their rents or their mortgages. And we're coming back a stronger and healthier Fort Myers. More transparency within our government leadership, more activity, more involvement, a repaired relationship between law enforcement and the community.
How would you describe, I said one more question, but luckily I own the show. I can do whatever I want to do, so I got some more questions. How would you describe race relations in Fort Myers?
Race relations, it's getting there. With me living in Ward 6, it's improved. It's just one of those things. It's up and down, but I think one of the things that we have to do is remove any emblems of the past. And I was willing to speak to you about the Robert E. Lee statue.
Go ahead.
I think as a country, if we're really going to move on together, one of the biggest things, we got to remove the shadows of the past.
Confederate images.
Images.
What should they be?
The Robert E. Lee bust. I've always said this. You look at Ronald Reagan in 1987, his letter to Mikhail Gorbachev when he wrote, and he said, "Tear down these walls, the Berlin Wall." We've always advocated for democracy throughout the whole world. In 2003, we knocked down the Saddam Hussein statue.
Mm-hmm.
We advocated for freedom there, and the Iraqi people have moved on. We have to do the same thing here in this country. We cannot have two groups of people moving together, and one is yoked by the images of the past.
General Lee, who led the Confederate Army that lost in the Civil War, their goal was to succeed from the Union, essentially separate from what we know now as the United States. They lost. Their goal was to keep slavery intact. They lost. Slavery is no longer here. Yet we still have these images. In fact, Lee County is named after General Lee, who led the Confederate soldiers. Do you think the name of the county itself, not Lee Pitts, but Lee County, should be changed as well?
Lee County should stay the same, but the statues have to go. The statue is more louder than the name. I think just that image. If we're gonna move on, I think the statue itself has to go.
Okay.
But eventually, the name will be taken down.
The name is General Lee.
It is
Robert E. Lee.
It is, but I think we just have to take things step by step. Step by step.
You sound like I think you mentioned his name earlier. You're a big fan of Congressman John Lewis, who recently passed. Huh?
Yes.
What did he mean to you?
A lot. When you see the guy, walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge during those early days, demonstrating, it's those same things that inspire me.
You see yourself as John Lewis.
Yes.
The modern day.
Yes.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Well, I want you to take 30 seconds. Look right into this camera. And appeal to the citizens of Fort Myers why you should be the man of choice on August 8th for the primary.
Well, as you know, as a young candidate coming in, Jacques Thomas, I want to represent the city of Fort Myers. It's time for a new sense of leadership, fresh perspective. We've let an experience have too many times on the table of leadership, and they've proved to done little or nothing. We need transparency. We need someone who's more active, who's going to fight for the people and fight for the right things. No more career politicians, no more individuals who are entitled to special interest groups. People who are like you and me will fight for us.
Well, Jacques, I want to say to you that I'm impressed with you. I wish you much success on the campaign. I will be following you closely, and John Lewis would certainly be proud of you and what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And
it's
don't
been
tell
an honor.
people you used to watch me when you were a little boy, make people think I'm old.
My mom is proud right now watching.
Tell your mom I said hello. What's your mom's name? Call her name. Make her famous on TV.
Hey, Jeanette. Hey, Mom. I'm on TV.
You on Leaf Fist Live finally, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is real. People, this is real. And it's been a pleasure talking to this candidate. Be sure to get out and vote, vote, vote. Again, Politics Central on Leaf Fist Live. Stay with us. We'll be back with more conversations with the politicians as things are heating up. It's Lee Pitts Live on Fox 4. For those who say it can't be done, they're usually interrupted by those like candidate Jacques right here who are doing it. We'll see.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.
Hello, Southwest Florida. Thanks for watching Lee Pitts Live. Of course, I'm Lee Pitts. I hope you enjoy that particular show, but you can always catch us here on YouTube. Just click on the subscribe button down there. That way you can get your Lee Pitts Live on demand when you want it and how you want it. We also encourage you to watch our show on Fox 4 and connect with us on all our social media platforms. Just type in Lee Pitts Live.